I'm Katrina, and this is So and Tare. Today, I am telling you the story of these cherry trees. I always wanted to grow cherries. I had fruit trees before I had a house. I bought this property in 2013, and before that, I had this tree right here, and the tree you guys are right underneath, which is apricots. Well, it used to be more than apricots. Both of those were multi-grafted fruit trees. They had this thing called a fruit salad tree. This fruit salad tree here was apricot, which is what the majority of the tree is now, Santa Rosa plum, which it has a very tiny branch of, and two type of peaches. Okay, there was something else on it because there was 5. Anyway, so, and the crows are talking to us. They're telling us their story too, so bear with me. If you have a fruit salad tree, a multi-grafted tree, and you have, thank you guys. Oh, of course. And you have stone fruit that you want to graft together. All those things can graft together. However, I highly recommend if you have apricot on there, don't do it. Okay, apricot, make apricot its own tree. It will outcompete. Look at this. All this is apricot. We have a teeny tiny branch over there that's a plum. So it will outcompete. So that is a lesson learned. Now over here for the cherries, it's another story. Cherries get along with cherries. So that was completely fine. It's a good decision. Now this cherry tree, I will try and remember what's all on it. It's written down somewhere. I don't know where I wrote it down. I know there's lapins, black Tatarian. I think there's a Bing. I think there's one more on there. Starts with L. Something starts with, does it start with L? Lapin starts with L. I don't know. Anyway, there's another one on there. And multi-grafted cherry trees are really good to have, or multiple cherry trees. They're really good to have because a lot of cherries need a pollinator. So out of the cherry trees I have, this is a multi-grafted, so it's going to have the pollinator on there. I have a self-fertile Bing. Bing is the general one that's in the grocery store. It's a good cherry. It's a decent cherry, but it's, a cherry. And they have self-fertile varieties and there's non-self-fertile varieties. So self-fertile means you don't need any other tree. If it's not self-fertile, you need a pollinator, and sometimes that pollinator needs to be a specific type or group of types. The one on the end is a Stella. She's always the last one to ripen, and she is self-fertile. Over here I have a Rainier cherry. Those are my favorite of the ones I have. I really want a Black Republican. I have a grafted, branch of that, but it just is starting, so I want a whole tree, guys. Black Republican cherries are very meaty, very good, so I'm hoping that works out. But the Rainier one's good. Now, I also used to have, I believe it's either Queen Anne. I think it's called Queen Anne. It's where maraschino cherries come from in the U.S. Fun fact, in the US, we don't have the same cherry varieties as elsewhere. Where maraschino cherries originated, it is a different type of cherry. But it's a sour cherry, and then you add, the sugars and bitter to it. And here in the United States, that is almond bitter. And in other countries, it can be a different kind of bitter. So anyway, that's the overview of the cherries. Now here's my story. Okay. I kept them short. They're cut about this tall from the bottom. They're up in a planter, but they're cut about that tall from the base, but where the soil is. And what that did is it made multiple branches grow out low, and these are the branches that you see. I did that on all of them except for the multi-grafted one, because the multi-grafted ones were already grafted. So if you have a cherry tree, from the nursery or whatever, it's likely a grafted variety, because if it's a variety, it's a name variety, it is from the same tree that every other one is from originally. It's the same genetic material. So anyway, here's my story. I finally got cherries. It took what, 4 years, maybe 5 years? I think it was 4 years of growing before there's cherries. And that was a long wait, and I was like, geez, do I take them out? So it's really important to pay attention to your chill hours, especially for cherries, and especially in a warming climate. So the climate is changing. The area that I live in used to have a lot of cherry trees, and several years in a row, they just didn't produce. You'll get some, or it'll rain late, and that means they crack. So there's some very sensitive things with cherries, with the chill hours, and also late rain. So several orchards got out of cherries. Cut them down, and they do row crops now, which is very sad. So it took several years before I got a harvest, any harvest. I think my first year it was like 4 or 5 cherries. And I think it was the next year after that, I was battling this mockingbird. Came out here, I'm like, okay, what's going on, dude? Something's happening. I kept seeing cherries like fall off the roof. What's going on? And there was this mockingbird. It was a single parent mockingbird. It might have been left for a reason, I don't know. But it was trying to raise one baby, so that tells you a little bit about the success rate of this mockingbird so far. They typically have, 4 or 5 to feed usually. Well, 4 maybe. And it would come, the baby was on the roof, so the fledgling was on my roof, which is right here. And it would come, take a cherry, fly up, and then proceed to shove it down the baby bird's throat. Now, if this is a worm or even a bug, there's a little flexibility. Cherries, they don't have much flexibility. It didn't break off pieces or anything. It was trying to shove the whole dang cherry down this bird's throat. And this poor little bird was, they do this little thing where they flap their wings and they're like, feed me, feed me. And it would pop out, roll down the roof, fall in the gutter. Well, what do you think happened after that fell in the gutter? You think it went after it? No. Flew over the tree, grabbed another cherry. So on this went until I'm like, oh my goodness, I am going to have to net this whole thing. So that is why you'll see these poles right here and right here. I have that on all 4 sides of the bed, and what I do, and it seems silly, but this is really the best way to do it. I get a party cup, those plastic cups, and I put it over top of it. And what that does is it makes it a smooth thing for the netting to go over. Pausing this here to let you know that there's a card in the corner that has a video of actually doing this. And it doesn't catch. So set up a ladder on either side of the beds. So these beds are, I don't even know what they are. They're like 4 feet maybe by, I don't know, 8 feet, 10 feet, something like that. And so I put up a ladder on either side, and you basically throw it over, unroll it, and you go on either side. If it helps if there's 2 people, but if there's 1 person sometimes, then you just go back and forth, and unroll this thing over the tree. So I then had to sew things together. So if you're sewing bird netting, the bird netting is what I used. If you're sewing bird netting together, I just used what I had at the time, which was like garden twine, and that did pretty well. It did pretty well. It took forever. So I wrapped a piece of masking tape on one end and sewed it through, and it took a while. And over the time, I have trapped accidentally a few birds in there. They all got out. I didn't have any dead ones. And I have extended downwards the netting as well, because as the trees grew, it was lifted. So this last year we cut it back very short and said, okay, that way the netting can go on very easily. Now, it works. It works really well. However, It is a super pain to get in there, and you're up against the tree and with the netting behind you, and you're like, okay, let me get in here. Oh, I need to get over there. Need to get over there. Don't wear any buttons. Nope, no buttons are allowed in there, because you wear buttons, they're gonna get snagged. And so you're like this against the tree, and it works. I am hoping I don't have to do that. I actually haven't seen any mockingbirds yet this nesting season, and I will knock on some cherry wood to get my luck to get going. And so I am hoping that's not the case. I do know there is a jay that is a California jay that is in the back, has a nest. I just saw on the power line up here one with some food, and so I know they're around. The crows are around. The crows have never really paid attention to the cherries. Again, knock on cherry wood. And I mean, there was one time, that one year, like the year I decided to put up the netting, I came out here. You know how sometimes you get so exhausted with an issue that you become ridiculous? Yes, it's happened to you, because it's happened to me. I was absolutely ridiculous. It wasn't a very big crop, and it was before I put the netting on, and it was this tree. It does it first, and I was sick of this thing. The mockingbird would take the cherry, or take bites out of it, right? But it'd take the cherry and go and sit over there and eat it and look at me. So I went out there and I ate all the cherries in front of it. Yep, when you're exhausted with a situation, you can be ridiculous. Was that petty? Yes. Did it get any more of my cherries? No. Were they ripe all the way? No, but they were ripe enough to eat. So anyway, that is the story of my cherries, and I have made many things with these. I've made pies, just eat them, regular. Made jelly, and just eating them. Eating them is good. Cherry juice is wonderful. And I plan to do a lot of things with them this year. So if you have cherry recipes, put them down below. And I will put, if I haven't already, I will put some cards up above talking about harvesting cherries. I think I probably would have already done that. I don't know if I did, because it's in the future. Anyway, so that is my story about cherries. I want to know what you are growing with your cherries. I want to know what cherry issues you're having. I know a couple years ago, fruit flies were really a bad issue with the cherries, and I actually still have a fruit fly trap in there. It doesn't have anything in it, but I still have a fruit fly trap in there from then, and hopefully that is not an issue this year. I think 2 years ago is when that was a real issue, and that becomes a very unappetizing time to pick cherries, and you notice that every single one has fruit fly in it. So hopefully that doesn't happen this year. Hi, little hummingbird. Am I on your way? I'm getting yelled at by a hummingbird here. That little chirp chirp. So that's the only thing I have dealt with my cherries besides birds. And there you go. So let me know what you're going to do with your cherries, if you're growing cherries, if you would like to grow cherries. There are some warmer weather cherries. There's some cherry-like things that are not cherries. And if you're in colder weather, then cherries are likely going to do really well for you. So I'm in zone 9B, and zone 9B is getting a little bit warm for cherries as a general thing, but again, check each variety for the chill hours required, and then look up the chill hours in your area. Just because something is in the nursery that's in your local area does not mean it will grow well in your local area, which is sad. However, it's the truth. So we'll zoom in one more time on these cherries, and guys, I'm so looking forward to cherry season. If you like the video, please hit the like, consider subscribing. We do all the things homesteading related here, and every Monday night we do a live. So subscribe, hit the bell notification, and have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.